Hello and welcome to the Sirrano Show. Today we had a chance to sit down with Paterson Mayor Jeffery Jones and grill him a little bit about the crime, the murders, the killing, the potholes, and everything else that surrounds the city of Paterson. This is part one of the Sirrano Show with Mayor Jeffery Jones. Hello and welcome to the Sirrano Show. Today we're here in Paterson with Mayor Jeffery Jones. Mayor, welcome to the Sirrano Show.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
You've been here a while before. It's been a while since we sat down and talked.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to find out what's going on in the city of Paterson.
Sure.
So I want you to take the lead and tell me 5 things that's currently at issue in the city of Paterson.
Okay. 5 things. Well, you'll notice if you ride around the city, street and infrastructural repair changes that are going on. Most of the roads are being done, not all of them, but many of them. They're being done in partnership with the county. That's one of the things that we like to take credit for. We've finally been able to work in partnership with the county. So county-based roads, which are Main Street, Market Street, 10th Avenue, they're working on them. We did our plan, McBride Avenue. And so as they're scraping the streets up and removing them and putting new drain systems and stuff like this and things of that nature, we're also doing the connecting streets. And so we're glad that finally roads are being repaired so that they will last, and they're being repaired so that we don't have like one road done and all these other roads not done.
The partnership, how did that come about?
Well, the county roads are the county roads. They've always been that. And so what happens is the county government, like state government, federal highways, state highways, they do it on their schedule. Route 20, they do it on their schedule. Sometimes they'll tell you, we're going to do this, and sometimes they don't. And they'll show up, like on Route 20 as the example, or McBride Avenue. We knew it was coming because we went to the hearings and we heard about it. But then they get started. And if you're not aware, you got traffic mayhem. You've got to have police officers respond to the location. You got businesses who are losing business. You got pedestrians who have to go all the way around. So what we did was we just talked to them. And through Chris Cope, Director of Public Works, he had the conversations with them, and we made sure that we were clear that we would work together in partnership. And the result is you're seeing roads being done. Obviously, people aren't going to always be happy.
Yes, let me cut to that. The potholes, what about the folks down on 18th Street and all those other places around there that seeing potholes sitting in the street?
Well, potholes, we're never going to get them all done. And as much as we try, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because, A, we don't have the resources for it. Money. We have part of our budget, and DPW puts in, every department creates a budget. And they have been directed to reduce their budget by 10%. And they do.
By whom?
That's my charge. So it is because we don't know what we're going to get from state aid, we don't know what kind of federal aid we're going to get, and we don't know what we're going to collect in taxes. So we allow for the contractual sorts of increases for staff, which nowadays can't be more than 2% if it's that. Some of the contracted conversations are 0, 0, and 2, or 0, 0, 0, 0. So you don't see an increase there, but we have outstanding contracted obligations that have been happening, and now they're coming to a final end, and so we're negotiating. So with the potholes and any other services, it all depends on how much money we get and how much money we collect. One of the interesting things is people who rent don't think they're paying taxes, but they are. When you pay it to the landlord, you just pay taxes. But if the taxes aren't collected, or not enough taxes are collected, then things are not going to get done. The other thing about potholes, potholes happen, and I'm going to use my hand as the example. This is the blacktop that you see. This is the first layer underneath the blacktop. And then underneath it's dirt, gravel, but down here could be sewers. Okay? So you have this hollow space underneath it. Water, or a snowplow, or a heavy truck and a bus rides on this road, it starts to put weight on it, you'll see a crack. Water from the summer, winter, starts to seep into that crack, starts to loosen up the bottom of the blacktop, but it's also working its way down. That's why you see sometimes the whole street collapses, because it begins to erode, and what's under there is all concrete, brick. So the water starts to get in it, ice gets in it, salt eats up the blacktop.
And this is a soft spot you're speaking of.
Well, it's like a tube It's like a tube, and it's all concreted, or they call it gunite, or it could be brick with concrete. But the water that seeps in it with the pressure, the weight, the ice, it begins to erode that. And then if a snowplow comes over the top and it lifts up some piece, then you got more water penetration, you got more ice and snow.
Okay, so how do you fix something like that?
Well, first of all, it creates a pothole. And some potholes are small because maybe when it was done, it wasn't done appropriately. And the appropriateness is the temperature of the blacktop has to be a certain degree. If it's not, then they're putting down cold patch. That cold patch is not going to stay long. If you put down cold patch and it's like 100 degrees outside, well, the tar may loosen up, and when it gets back to its adhesion point, it'll firm up. But you have the potential for a pothole.
So time of the year is when you fix it.
Right. And by law, we can't start doing pothole repair before April because it's the rainy season and the snow and salt. So you got April up until about October, give or take. And potholes just keep happening.
Now, if I'm a resident and I got a pothole, what do I do? Can I do something? Can I
you call action? You have to call Public Works and let us know you have a pothole because, I mean, listen, we're short-staffed of Public Works employees who do streets and roads. And what we've done is we've gone out and we've contracted agencies or businesses who actually do pothole repair because we don't have enough people to do it. And to do a pothole, I don't care if it's this big, you've got to open it up almost twice or 3 times the size for the patch to really work. When you see the machine take down the whole surface, they go down to the real base, gravel-like, and when they get there, they sweep it, clean it, and then they put tar.
Okay, we're getting the technical part of it. But the thing is, I have a pothole on my street.
You call Public Works.
And then what happens?
Well, Public Works puts it on the list. That list gets distributed to the folks who do street and pave and roads, and they go out and they hit where they can. Sometimes they ride out and they'll see it. But that depends on when we have cash in order to do it, and if they're not overwhelmed by the other things. Streets and roads could be potholes, could be a major street repair, it could be a drain that's clogged. So those guys are doing all of that.
Do you know how many tickets, how many lawsuits the city has received as a result of car being damaged by those potholes?
No, I don't. What I do have, or what legal has, is a stack this thick of all our liability cases. And we're going through that. We've asked that from our insurance carrier some time ago. We finally got it. And it takes a look at our exposures. And we're looking to address the exposures. So where we find common problems, we're going to address that through policy and through action. And potholes is one of them. If a pothole is seen and it's not referred to, we may not see it because we may not drive that road. And if someone doesn't call, we don't know it. But once we're informed, we have to go out there and mitigate it.
So they need to call?
They need a call.
Okay, new topic.
Okay. The other thing is we've been able to get our parks in a much better position. Matter of fact, I'm real proud of Pennington Park, and I encourage anyone and everyone, go up to McBride Avenue and see the new state-of-the-art park that's coming in.
Coming? How long?
December, it'll be done.
December this year, 2013.
December 2013.
Okay.
Brand new state-of-the-art park with 3 different fields, 1 turf, 2 grass fields. We're having the pavilion done all over. We have a brand new set of kids rides, amusement playground rides, brand new basketball courts, a walking track all the way around it, stadium lighting, bleachers, press box.
So we won't be harassed with the crowd. We get a special.
It is the direction that we want to take our parks, and then the next park we're looking at, of course, we have to do a study, a plan. We're going to take a look at Buckley Park, we're going to take a look at Westside Park, and we're going to look at reconfiguring them. Let's say the park runs this way, but if we did it a little differently by design, we might be able to get 2 parks if we go this way. And then we might be able to put something here. We're looking at concession stands to generate revenue, because the people who come in and sell food off food trucks, the city doesn't get any money for it.
Now there's Pennington Park and how many others?
Well, we have 50 plus parks.
Why Pennington? Why they received $2 million something to construct this park?
Yes.
Why did Pennington receive the $2 million and it was not distributed to the other parks as well?
Because each park is like a person. It has its own needs. Pennington Park is along the river. When it floods, on the occasional floods, and its usage, because it's been played by soccer, the field got tore up. There was never a water filtration system to water the grass.
There is now.
There is now. So we've considered all those pieces. We also have in the design a sort of like a levee system so that it can take water on and it drains back out to the river. Before it would just sit there. We've also considered putting a pool cover on top of the grass fields, not to stop water penetration, but to stop the muck that sits onto it that destroys the field.
So every time there's a flood, you have to go out and put this.
Right. Which is where our citizen alert system comes in.
It seems expensive.
No, it's cheaper. Because it's if you do your pool and you run to put your pool cover on it, it's no different. You take two ends of the plastic, whatever the thing is, and two guys with trucks or whatever they're going to do, or a winch, they just pull the tarp up, they bolt it down or stake it down, and you just leave it.
This is DPW.
This is Public Works.
Now,
Parks and Shade Tree.
So it will still flood, but you're protected.
Yes.
Okay, and it's not expensive.
Right.
Okay.
Which means then each subsequent year you want to keep finding another $2 million to do the park over again.
Okay. There is a fire station being built right next to it?
Right next to the...
In the flood zone?
No. The fire station is not part of the flood zone. The firehouse. No.
There's a lot of construction over there.
Yeah. Don't forget, the McBride Ave side is elevated, and the park, Paterson, is down in the lower piece of it, and it's along the river's edge. The firehouse is elevated like the baseball field and all of McBride Avenue, which doesn't flood, from what we know from our records. And it's a brand new state-of-the-art firehouse.
How much did it cost to build?
It's about $6 to $8 million.
Who paid for it?
Federal dollars, some state dollars, and some city dollars.
How many city dollars do you know?
No.
You get money back from this, or just resources to have the fire department station here?
Well, it's not a revenue-generating condition. What happened is we have an old firehouse on Grand Street, and it was too small, obsolete. And so you have the risk of fire personnel being in there, you have the risk of the building having some major issue, and it's over 100 years old.
Is it closed right now?
Yes, it is closed for service.
Okay, new type.
Okay. We just got the award from the county for $260,000 to fix the cricket house on the lower end of Eastside Park. And we're discussing that, looking at a concession stand, and looking at a real formalized cricket field.
$250,000 to build a cricket field?
No, to fix the structure, that real stone-looking, dark brown, cavernous space at the bottom of Eastside Park that has been closed for over 20-some-odd years. Bathrooms and concession stands, because you get rid of porta-johns, so you get rid of some of the other problems, but you also have a place where families can go, and that's what we've been looking at, family recreation.
On the lower part of Eastside Park?
Yes, closer to Route 20.
Okay.
And then we just got Henschler Stadium underway. And
I'm sorry, the money, the $250,000, did you get it already?
Yes, that was appropriated by the county, and we had to apply.
And you applied and you got it?
We applied and we received it.
You have it?
Yes.
When is the construction for that starting?
Shortly.
Okay.
Shortly.
Before I forget, the Pennington Park, is there a grand opening? Is there ribbon cutting, something?
Well, I'm not into grand openings. I'm not.
Okay.
I think the public wants to know that they can use the park. We will do a ribbon cutting just so everybody knows that the park is open and come and enjoy and play. We didn't do one for the firehouse, which was originally started by the former administration, but just like that in Pennington Park and Henschler Stadium, they didn't get it done, nor the National Park. They didn't get it done. We got them done. And in getting them done, they're now about to be ribbons cut for families to use. Firehouse will be a community center as part of it, a community meeting space as well.
With the firehouse on the McBride?
McBride Avenue.
There's a section for a community...
yes, for communities
civic
to meet.
Center?
Well,
Center?
not civic center, but a meeting space.
A meeting space.
Right.
Like the other one over there on Hansel Stadium. There's a fire place there that people use for...
Yes, you're talking about down by Clinton Street.
Go up McBride Avenue and take a right down there, going down to...
I don't know.
There's a firehouse over there. I know they use it for events.
Well,
anyway.
Oh, you're talking... Okay, no, you're talking about the police... the Fire Benevolence Association's hall.
Yeah.
No, this isn't the same thing. This is a firehouse with...
Only restricted to firehouse, or can I have an event there?
That I don't know. I don't know what our plan is in terms of how the public's going to use it, but it's a space that we've carved out so the public can have public meetings, community-based meetings. We figure we need to integrate that. The other important part of that is that in the event of storms, We have 5 successive bridges: Straight Street Bridge, Arch Street Bridge, all the way down. Once we have terrific storms and horrific storms, the city gets cut off. The only way you can get to the city and some city services is to go through Route 8. This way, we'll have a firehouse on this side of the bridge that can go on this side, on this side of River Street.
In case of an emergency.
In case of emergency.
New topic.
So Hinchliffe Stadium is now in the stages where it's doing stabilization. The WASA group, who was selected in the RFP, has gone up and started doing some board drillings. They've marked certain panels to restore and stabilize Hinchliffe. The next phase becomes the build out and fundraising to turn it into a state-of-the-art field, sort of like this, I guess. Not quite this, but what we're looking at doing is they've looked to see how to make these pieces like this stronger. Okay?
So,
it's not going to look like this, I can guarantee it, but we've stabilized it. Where these things were falling down, they're going to fix it so they don't fall down. We're going to look at expanding the stadium.
so this goes on top of the Handcliff that's there right now.
Well, no, not this. This is just a concept of
Okay.
ways that we can see Hinchliffe differently. But every day it's something new until we get a final plan as to something we like and the public will be engaged in it. What we have to do is stop what we have from falling down.
Okay.
And so that's what we've done. And that's about $1.5 million through a...
Just to stop it from falling down, kind
Just to
of
stop it.
revitalizing it and
Yeah.
keeping it. Did you get that money yet?
Yes, the city did a bond for it, so we contributed $1 million. The Friends of Hinchliffe got a grant through, thanks to Senator Frank Lautenberg,
Who recently passed away.
And between the two of those and whatever dollars the district is going to give, which I understand are zero, it's going to help with stabilization. I now have to find partners, public-private partners,
To reconstruct it and keep it.
to build it the way we want to. It's going to be stable now.
Now wait, the 1 point something million.
All that does is stabilize.
Do you have that money?
Yes,
It's in your pocket.
it's in the bank.
Okay. So when is the reconstruction or preservation of that starts?
Well, that's what this is about. The 1.5 million is about preservation.
When does it start?
It's already started.
So people are over there fixing it, cleaning it.
Yes.
So okay. So
Right.
all right. And so now after that's done, you're now looking for investors to spend the millions and millions
To build it out, to
Right.
make it the kind of stadium that could really accommodate. I mean, think of Shea Stadium. Think of the Metropolitan Arts Stadium. It can be near those stadiums reasonably. It used to be a 10,000 seat stadium. So we could host baseball, we could host cricket, we could host football, you could host soccer, and you could charge. So it becomes a revenue generator.
How long before it finishes reconstruction? stage?
Well, the stabilization will take 6 to 8 months.
okay.
And then
So going into next summer.
Right. So I start now bringing in partners, talking to folks who have a desire, and the desire is really simple. Let's say you got Modell's. Let's use Modell's Sporting Goods or Sports Authority. Let's say they want to name something. Let's say they want to be a partner. Let's say they're willing to give $500,000 for naming. And it's just an example.
That's putting your name up like the Met
Right.
Stadium.
Right.
Okay.
And so you would invite folks to help you build it out. Of course, they're going to want some say in it. They're going to want to say when they get to use it. They're going to want to have some control of the gate. So where you might have seen all profit, you're going to see a portion. But you have a portion of whatever the profits are.
Don't you think the advertising, just their name being on that, is worth the $500,000?
Well, it's not for me to make that call. You offer it to everybody and see who bites. And then we're going to apply for federal dollars, and we're going to apply for state dollars, and we're going to apply for county dollars.
So right now in summer of next year, it's going to be hopefully finished, right?
No, it's just going to be stable.
Stable.
Right.
So and it cannot be used.
Right.
Just the structure being stable.
When it's all said and done, this 6 to 8 months will stop the threat of it falling down.
Okay.
Then, in a while now, we start looking at how we now take it from the verge of falling down to where it's functional and usable.
What's connected to this?
Maryland Kramer Park, which was my next, it took 30 years, but we finally got it done. It is now going to be cleaned out. It's got a lot of fill.
That's the park
contaminants.
next to the Handcliff Stadium.
Right.
That hasn't been used. It's been decaying.
Well, back in the day, and I hate saying that, but it's the truth, most of Paterson had deposits of contaminants, benzene, things of that nature.
Because of the factories.
Factories and other things. And so anytime we start talking to someone about economic development, building new properties or new buildings or something like that, they're first going to want to do a site study, a site survey to see if there are contaminants, because it's a cost. The firehouse, which we refer to, had benzene in it. The people who tested for 120 different types of chemicals. They didn't test for benzene or benzoate or whatever it's called. And so that's another $60,000, $70,000
To clean it up.
to clean it up. It means the soil had to be removed, it had to be taken to a clean site, you had to replace it with clean soil. EPA had to come in, EDA had to come in, and then you didn't get a permit until that was all done to start construction. It's a permit that allows you to start construction. So until it's clean, you can't touch it. Same happened with the national park, which is why it hasn't fully been conveyed to the federal government. They won't take contaminated soil or contaminated land. So Maryland and Kramer Park has some contaminants, and it's going to take 18 months to clean it, but we started it.
Okay.
And
Who's
so,
paying for that?
Through federal and state funds.
Okay. Nothing city?
Well, we may have contributed a few dollars, but not a lot. No.
Okay.
So the game here, and I call it a game, but the game is using other people's money, leveraging what you have, making sure you cross all your T's and dot your I's. You have these conversations, you bring people to the circumstance, and then you do what you have to do to get it done. And so we got some county dollars, we used some state dollars, and some federal dollars, I believe, to get it done. Matter of fact, this morning at our cabinet meeting, we just talked about the new Riverwalk. Along the river, you're going to see concrete walkways after the RFP goes out, which will go out on Monday, I believe it's Tuesday. A request for proposal. Companies, agencies will submit an RFP, and that's how we do insurance, lawyers, all that. You have to say, this is what we're looking for. These folks submit this request for proposal, we review them. We set a rate, a salary, we set all that stuff. They say, this is what I can do the job for, and then we award the best bidder or the lowest
Where's
bidder.
the walkway going to be?
Along the river. Matter of fact, unfortunately, there's a picture over there, but it's along the river's edge. So at the base of the falls, you'll be able to walk all the way down to the West Broadway Bridge.
Okay.
Right.
I guess you can take pictures and...
Yeah. So now we're looking at solar, generating revenue. We're looking at lighting.
The Falls has its own solar generating revenue.
Not yet, but they're working on that. Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah. They're a separate entity. They're looking at incorporating solar. So that's one of the other things that
What
we
happened to the water, bottled water thing?
They did the studies. They contracted or identified a distributor, from what I understand. The Water Commission has no full-time employees, so the commissioners have to do it based on their time and availability.
That's Paterson having its own bottled water.
Yes. Matter of fact, it's, sorry,
Just go ahead.
getting out the camera. It is similar to this. They had to do a new label design because you have to work.
Great Falls Springs.
Yes, Great Falls Spring Water, and it doesn't come from the falls. It comes from up at the reservoir.
Okay,
because
good.
we own it. But interestingly,
You own the reservoir up...
well, we own the rights to some of the water, so that's what allows them to sell the water.
Okay, so when you put this in the market, it's going to be what, $1.75?
I don't know. That's what the marketing has to do, and that's what they have to come away with.
So where is this at right now?
As you see, they've got the original, they've got a base created. They have to take a look at costs for bottles. They got to take a look at who's going to do the water, actually fill in the bottles. They've got to take a look at commission-based sales. Got to look at the territory. So they've got a lot of work going on.
How much money do you think Paterson or percentage would get out of this when it's done?
Well, it'll all go to the MUA, so it's all profit.
Okay.
So it could be a couple $100,000. It could be $1 million for all we know.
Okay.
And it would stop us from buying other people's water.
All right, new topic.
Okay. Last thing on the water is, this is bottled water that is at Trump Bedminster Golf Course, and they give water away to their golfers who pay $100,000 a year or $500,000 up to $500,000 membership.
So you want to do the same thing with...
Well, this helped me make my point to them why we should not be missing out on an opportunity.
Okay.
Okay. So, Maryland Kramer, Henschliff Stadium, Firehouse, Pennington, that's 4. The Cricket Field House, that's 5. You asked me for 5.
East side.
Yeah, that's 5.
Okay, now let's get to the big topics.
Okay.
Crime, shooting, killing. People are afraid to come into Paterson. They're hearing all these stories. There's another, in the 5th Ward, there was a
Yes.
kid that got shot. There was a police officer.
Out of
or
Newark. A sheriff's officer out of
out of
Newark.
Newark. He was allegedly in plain clothes. He was standing in a corner.
That's under investigation. He was outside of the bar of his family's establishment.
Oh, his family owns it?
That's what the rumor is. I don't know. I saw some of the news.
Did you speak to your police chief or director about this?
Yes, I did.
Did they feed you?
Yes, I did.
So what did they tell you that's going on in the street there?
We have a lot of establishments, and in both scenarios, and there were 2. One was a bar, liquor store, owned by a family. This person, as I understand it, is a member of that family and also a law enforcement officer out of Essex. He was allegedly standing outside, and somebody did what they call a drive-by. What we don't know is what provoked it. Was there a...
So they were in the car when they shot him? They didn't...
That's what I understand.
Okay.
I don't have any facts to support this. I'm only telling you what I've heard, and I can't tell you what's true. It's under investigation by the Essex County prosecutor and police department. The other was...
Wait, if it's in Paterson, shouldn't that be...
No, sir. It was an Essex County police officer, so it requires their intervention as well as state county prosecutors.
Yeah, she has to be involved. It's for territory.
Both do.
Okay.
Listen,
Camille Valdez for state county prosecutor.
Right.
So I guess they'll work jointly as they did when the Newark cop was shot
Yes.
at Sunrise Adult
Correct.
Entertainment Center.
Correct. The other one was a house party. And the house party, from what I understand, some folks who were not invited wanted to get into the party. They were turned away. And they left angry, and they came back. And it's mortifying and it's horrific, but it's real. And to your point, or to your question, what's happening in Paterson isn't just happening in Paterson. This is happening all over, from airports to train derailments, and I throw train derailments in it, that things do happen. More to the point about crime is down.
Well, there was another gentleman was supposedly getting robbed, and he ran away and was shot in the back.
Okay, my phone keeps ringing. I'm sorry. There are.
There seems to be a lot of robbery.
Well, let's talk about robbery, and I can give you some background on robbery.
No, the shooting comes as a result. Well, in some of the cases, revenge shooting, and then there's robberies happening.
Well, I think you're speculating.
Well, you said that there was a party and they came back.
Well,
isn't that a revenge shooting?
Well, I don't know that. That's why I'm saying.
It wasn't a robbery.
Well, okay, let me try to answer the question.
Let's go.
This isn't CSI.
All right.
And some of the problems that people are having, myself included, they can apprehend the criminal, the perpetrator, in 48 hours. Okay, that's one incident, or maybe 3 within the 30-minute segment, but that's not worldwide. So when we see those things, and you see 24-hour shows and stuff like that, that's not real based on this. They're excerpts from something that happened, and they're showing you within a certain time frame. But it also might be they have the resources. What's interesting is every one of those scenarios is similar to a Paterson. High urban traffic, high unemployment, low educational attainment. We all got those same factors. Look at Detroit. Detroit just went belly up. They went from 2.3 million or 2.7 million people down to 700,000 people. Crime all over the place. If you and when you discourage people from going to the outer towns, Hawthorne, Wayne, Helden, and you don't have to say you're not welcome, just have rents that are unaffordable. Make sure that when they come to live in your town, it's not easy. Well, where are they going to go? They're going to come to Paterson because your rents are a lot less than there. Your friends are here, maybe. Your resources that you need are here. County seat, State County Board of Social Services, methadone clinics. It's all here, so you're going to come. Be released from prison and or jail. Your family's here. You're going to stay with family. You can't find a job? You're going to do something. Be a youngster who plays video games, and I'm just throwing this out there, who may not realize that in video, you reset the button and everything starts all over again. In real life, if somebody dies, they're dead, it's over. So not long ago, a week ago, there was a meeting at the Masonic Temple about this exact same issue. And a host of gentlemen went out there onto the streets and talked to the people about, let's bury the beef. Now, first of all, you got to know what the beef is. We don't know what it is. Could it be about a girlfriend? Could it be about somebody said something to you? Could it be about territory? Could it just be you had a bad day?
But or you need money and you have a gun.
Or you need money, you have a gun. Or, listen, some people shoot just for the sake of shooting. So you have all that, and yet, here's the interesting thing. Every one of these people goes home somewhere. Every one of them lays their head down on a pillow in somebody's house or apartment. And every one of them comes in the house, and no one in the house that I can see right now is asking, where you been? What you been doing? So, it's okay to say, the city can't do it. That's not the function of the city. Police officers are out there to protect and serve. But they ain't going to be there when he's trying not to be seen. They'll be responding to a problem over there, and he's going to make sure he's over there. He's going to go to a place where he was rejected, maybe, or she. Or they may be out-of-towners looking for it. It's all those variables. Now, nobody's happy. Nobody. But the common denominator is every one of these folks who commits a crime has to go home somewhere, lay their head down. If they're not working during the day and they're sleeping during the day, somebody needs to ask the question. If they're rolling in with brand new gear and they're not working, ask the question. If they got a lock on their door in your apartment or your house that you're paying for, ask the question. Is it going to stop it? No.
What do you think it would take to stop the crime in Paterson?
Well, that's a big question because crime is going to the supermarket and taking a grape because you don't think a grape costs.
I'm talking about the ones that gets national and statewide publicity.
Well, I think you have two issues there. Jobs is the first thing. Jobs, if you're working, you're too tired to hang out. But the other thing is, jobs, you have a sense of purpose. You have a sense of direction.
What if there are jobs and they just don't want to work?
Well, then that becomes the bigger question. There are some elements of society that we're not going to help. We're not going to be able to save them because they don't want to be saved.
But they are the people that's turning to crime when it's time to get that money.
Listen,
Mr.
Madoff with $50 million or $50 billion. Right. Billion, right?
Mm-hmm.
He made off with $50 billion. He made off with it, and interesting, that's his last name. But he made off with it, and yet his crime destroyed as many people, if not more and deeper, than some of these other crimes. Because he took life savings, he took away the confidence people have in institutions. So his crime is a crime, no matter how you look at it.
How does that relate back to Paterson and the shooting and the killing and the hanging on the street corner? When I need money, I don't need a job, I don't want a job, I sleep with my mother's house or in this house that somebody else pays the rent to anyway, so I don't need to care. I hang out in the street corner, and when it's time for me to get some money, I know how to get it. That guy walking down the street there, he's got some, I'm going to take it from him.
You made my case. It is becoming difficult at best to understand what's in the hearts and minds of people. The public, for the most part, has pulled back, but for years, we've left it in the hands of the police. I remember when folks used to come down to the council meetings and talk about crime and the police not doing this and that. Now, whether they don't come down because they don't believe in it or whether, whatever it is, I'm not sure. But if the public's not involved and engaged and not speaking out and not just coming down to the microphone because we don't want to make you a victim, but you're not patrolling your own home or your neighborhood. For instance, a young man is sitting on your front porch. He ain't paying rent there. He doesn't live there. But you won't call anybody on him. Why? He's got you afraid, perhaps. He's saying if you snitch, you're going to have a problem. So you'll live in fear?
Well, Governor Christie has a law. I think he put it out in one of the oranges, the East-West orange itself, where for gang members or anybody else, that if I report a crime to you, on you, and you target me,
retaliate.
The penalty for that retaliation is so great that you fear retaliating against me rather than I have to fear you. Can we bring that into Paterson?
Well, the governor presented a law, then it's a law for the entire state. I don't think he can make a law.
I think it was more of a program.
Well, if it's a program, then that's what it is. It's a program. I tried, and you may recall, when I asked the Fed to take a look at federal boundaries of jurisdictions, if you will. Why? Because we have this proliferation of guns coming to the city. We don't manufacture guns here, but they're here. I was told flatly, we don't do that. Now, we do that in the form of the Graves Act. If you have a gun within so many feet of a school, you go into prison, trigger lock, 10 years. Non-negotiable.
Or drugs.
Right, or drugs, 10 years. So you do that. You do have zones set up. There's state and federal laws that says if you have a gun, if you've been involved in something prior to, so you do it. I was asking, we did get support from the DEA, the AFT, ATF, the county, the prosecutors, police department. We were patrolling the streets and knocking things down. We were making headway. But we also had a lot of people who became unemployed, a lot of people who got released from the various institutions who had nowhere to go. And so they became here. And if they went to another town, they were skirted out real quickly. So the question is, why is it so easy for people to dump on urban centers? And why is it so easy for folks to blame the city rather than take a look at the bigger picture?
So maybe Paterson should up its ante, like the other cities, and make it exclusive for those who want to have a better life and a job and be productive in society. If it's working for them, why doesn't Paterson?
I don't think it works for them. Here's what happened. Now I hear what you're saying. Let's take a town called Hawthorne. Let's take a town called Elmwood Park. Let's take a town called Fairlawn. Let's take a town called Baskin Ridge. They never let the guard down. They never had to deal with the majority of minorities as we deal with here. They never had to. They could always say no. And they did. If you can't afford to live here, you can't be here. We don't have that as an option.
Well, can't you create some kind
How do you create an option that says where your county services are, where your low rents are, where your absentee landlords are, where your social services and your public welfare is? How do you create that? That's why they don't do it. That's why when they had RCA funds and Mount Laurel funds and they were supposed to build low-income housing, they said, here, Paterson, take the $1 million, but also take the people. So people used our poor position against us. And
so you like the Statue of Liberty of the world. Give us your poor, give us your hungry, your criminals.
And now, thankfully, the law says you can't do that with the monies. Right? You can't do that with the monies. You can't give us the money and send us support. You as a community have a responsibility for your folks. But they've got almost a 50, 60, 100-year advance on redlining, and that's what I'm going to call it, redlining their borders. If you ride through their town, you're going to get stopped by a police officer.
And that does not happen in Paterson.
If you walk through the street, you're going, so they've got that. Somewhere constitutionally it's going to come into being. And now we're talking about New York, where stop and frisk. So New York tried.
But it's still working for them. I mean, it hasn't been challenged yet. I mean,
what hasn't been challenged?
I noticed a lot of Caucasian young men walking through Paterson.
Yes, sir.
Panhandling. So that's
prostitution, panhandling, just walking. And I asked them.
So why can't your police officers do what the police officers are doing in the other 15 towns?
Well, the police officers in other towns aren't going to tell you they're doing that.
But they are.
Got to catch them. I know of and have met at least 7, maybe 8 people who I know don't live here. Now, you can say, well, how do you know? I asked them, where are you from? He said, Paterson. Where?
These are people walking the streets.
Standing there with cups. I says, where in Paterson? On such and such street. Really? What number? Well, how many live? Well, I'm at Eva's Village. I've been there for whatever. I said, okay, before Eva's Village, where were you? Ringwood, Atlantic City, Mendham, Wyckoff, Wayne. Well, what are you doing here? Why are you on our streets doing panhandling? Why are you doing that here? Well, they told me I had to get out of there.
They told me what?
I had to get out of there.
Get out of the way.
Wherever they were, whatever town it was.
Okay.
So because they couldn't stay in their communities where their families and friends are, because they didn't want it to decay those communities, you better go to Paterson. And they have said, they sent me to Paterson. And they came here because of the drug and methadone clinics. They came here for the counseling and the social services. They came here for that purpose. And once they get here, by law, they're entitled to be here.
So you're talking about Straight and Narrow, you're talking about
I'm talking about all of them.
You're talking about Oasis.
I'm talking about any service-based agency.
Those are some of them.
Right. And so, and some of them, they serve you between the hours of blank and blank, but by 6 o'clock in the morning, you got to be out of there.
And you have to leave their facility at the age of 18, and you get a 6 months program or a year program.
And then you don't go back home, you stay in Paterson.
Exactly. So
and if you get caught up into the cycle. So having had that advance of 100 years, not have to deal with it, and Paterson having always wanted to get additional resources and support, however we got it, it led to us having folks who had challenges. Plus our migration, our immigration piece. We have 52 nationalities and ethnic groups. People are bringing their friends and families from wherever they come from, escaping political persecution, escaping communism, whatever the case is.
Well,
and it's easier to live here.
It's also escaping immigration.
And immigration. So once you get here, right? You get here, and you can't find a job.
You stay with family because you're out of status now. You're illegal in the country.
And so there's a chance that you're going to look for an opportunity. So there are all kinds of assumptions that people have about Paterson. But if all the surrounding towns took back their folks and served their people there, then we could deal with our problem.
So you're serving your people, their people, and everybody
We're serving
else.
everybody's people.
Okay, new topic.
We
We talked about crime. We talked about poverty. What about jobs in businesses? How do you generate revenue? How do you get new businesses to start? Is there a program in place
Sure there is.
that is not just sitting there? Because I know you have the Small Business Association, I think, in the back of Paterson,
Right.
City Hall. And these are wonderful people that work there. I don't want to say anything negative about them. But I don't see a community outreach to say, look, hey, Paterson, if you want to, as a resident, want to open up a business in this city, we're here for you, and we're going to start you off. We're going to give you a loan with, I think the interest rate's very low, it's like 3%, and we're going to help you start a business. I don't see that happening from that department.
Well, it has happened. It does happen. As a matter of fact, it happened through the PRC, who supports microloans for small businesses who are looking to grow. And the Small Business Development Center, when we got here, was in fact...
I'm sorry, let me go back to my original question. How do you attract businesses to Paterson beyond the poverty, beyond the crime? How do you get me to open up a storefront in the city when every time I look at one of these major newspapers, i.e. some one of them, it's all crime, it's all crime.
Well, it's not all crime. And I just want to correct that now. It's not all crime. There are a lot of people who are living very well in Paterson, not superior, but we're living. We have family here. We love our family. We don't like what we see. And we don't know when the next one's going to happen. As far as business goes, we have taken serious steps towards bringing business. By the way, my trip to India was not about me going to see just India. My conversations with 7 different delegations from China was not about saying I had 7 delegations from China. My meetings with the people from South Korea was not about saying, hey, people from South Korea are here. The fact that Gamano Peru was here, it wasn't about Jeff Jones did this. It is because Main Street, Market Street, Madison Avenue, Broadway, which have been here for decades, don't have a whole lot of people knocking on the door saying, we want to build. Now, they're talking now. They are asking questions now because of the survey we did of our 30 mills, and we have everything on our website.
You're talking about U.S.-based businesses coming into
Well, no, I'm not saying U.S.-based business. I'm saying business.
business.
Now, so we have 2 things. We have businesses, worldwide or otherwise. If they're going to invest in China, Singapore, Thailand, Philippines, why can't they invest in Paterson? If you got 52 different nationalities, if every nationality hosted a series of businesses like South Paterson, then Paterson would be thriving. As far as the individuals who may or may not know that they have an entrepreneurial spirit, the Small Business Development Center is open 5 days a week. It does, in fact, help. If you come down and say, I want to do a business plan, I want to know about business, then the rest is on you. You just don't go there and say, I want to go in business and don't have a plan. That's not their function. They can't help you. But what they have done is they have created a process, and that's what we took care of. Partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, the Small Business Development Center, the Urban Enterprise Zone, and the PRC, and now our Economic Development. So you have 5 fingers of death, if you will. I like that movie. What it does is, when you come into the city and you want to do a business, you go straight to the Small Business Development Center. If you go to any others, they're going to send you to the Small Business Development Center. Why? So we can begin to track where you are. You would then sit down there and have a meeting, as by an appointment, and they will take a look at what you want to do. And they will talk to you about a business plan, they'll give you materials, they'll show you some booklets and things like that.
Okay, say I want to open up a bakery.
Okay? So let's say you want to open a bakery.
Okay. I can cook great. I want to have a bakery store.
So what they would do is sit with you and talk to you more about your idea. Have you baked anything? Do you cook anything? They're going to get into that.
My husband loves it. My kids
They're
love it.
going to ask you, did you sell anything? What were your profits? So what happens is people say they want to go into business, but they don't know what business is. And so unless somebody can help you, because you can say I want to go into business, and once they talk to you about maintaining receipts, about orders and supplies, about delivery, about taxes, about that, then people go, oh my goodness. But Paterson used to be all privately owned small businesses. And that's our goal. Our new plan is 3,000 small businesses. To grow 3,000 small businesses, because one business usually employs at least 3 people. That would be 9,000 people working just like that.
What about this plan? Have you developed it? Is it in the works? What's going on?
The plan has been developed, it's engages, and it started when I got in office. That was the consolidation of those 5 fingers of components working together.
How do I reach these people if I want to?
Small Business Development Center, you walk through that door, you tell them you have an idea.
They're in the back of Paterson City Hall on Ellison Street.
135 Ellison Street.
Okay. And after them, what do I need to do?
Well, that's the beauty of it. Once you go and tell them you have a plan, and you have to work with them, and they work with you, they will help you figure out the strength of where you are. So if, let's say you want to sell water, and all you say is I want to sell water, you're not going anywhere. You say I want to sell water, I want to sell vitamin water. Okay, they're going to ask you about packaging, they're going to ask you about marketing, they're going to ask you about your plan, they're going to ask you where you're going to get your base products from, they're going to ask you where your facility is, you know what your rents are, what your insurance are, and how many people are going to work with you, how are you going to distribute, what are your licenses, your insurances. They're going to ask you all that.
Oh, like I want to open up a bodegas, buy and sell for profit.
Well, we have a lot of folks who open up bodegas who don't go to the Small Business Development Center. What they do is just open up a storefront and they sell. But the question, are they maximizing their capability? And I tell you no. So what we did do is make sure that we had that beginning of the process that really gets to the core of what the issues are. And then, depending on where you are in the stage that you both agree to, you then now get referred to the PRC for a microloan or mid-range loan.
PRC is?
Paterson Restoration Corporation.
Okay.
Or to a bank to see about you getting a loan. Or you become a member of the Chamber of Commerce, which helps you in terms of marketing yourself to other businesses. And the UEZ, which helps you understand where you get the 3.5% benefit depending on where you set up your business in the city. So we figured that out. We fixed that piece.
Is this on your website?
No, the 3,000 Small Business campaign, you're going to be seeing a PSA come out where you're going to have all of those 5 and some businesses talking and encouraging people to come down and sign up. That should be happening relatively soon, another couple of weeks maybe. Some of this came from our meeting down in Atlantic City. Some of it came from realizing that if we don't...
Atlantic City is the League of Municipalities.
Yes, sir. Some of it came from just seeing that many of our storefronts are closed and they should be open. Folks want to sell food, but being a restaurateur is different than selling food. There are licenses, there are training, there's securities, there's all these things. And so we need you to be educated about it. And then you decide. We've also looked at, through our economic development, doing a business incubator, where we would take a space, a factory building, and we would convert it into like a storefront with training. So if you want to do cooking, there's a kitchen, a state-of-the-art kitchen there. If you want to do marketing, you have this cube where you sit down and you work through your business, and you have 6 months to a year to get your business off the ground. All of those 5 would work with you so you're a proficient business, with the goal that you would find a space throughout the city and open up your business and you would flourish.
Can folks turn their houses into a business front?
It depends on the zoning, probably not. If you're not zoned for it, you can't convert a single family house into a business. But you can go to the planning board or board of adjustments and see if it's zoned for it. If it is zoned for it, then anything's possible.
I think on Madison Avenue, and I think it's either 12th or 11th, it was a building that was burnt down, and they turned a storefront into a beautiful convenience store.
It might have been zoned already, and if the original use is no longer there, the land is open, they would have had to apply to the Board of Adjustment or the Planning Board to rebuild something different. If it fit the zoning, then they can do it.
So folks should find out whether or not they can turn their own homes into a storefront.
You can, well, not necessarily a storefront, but I guess that's a possibility. I used to do consulting, and I have a home office. And in my home office, I would consult. And I had to follow the rules of, the tax laws and all this other stuff. My clients would come in, and I'd write off a square footage on my taxes for my business. And, of course, I had to submit all my receipts, and I had to submit all my checks and hope for the best. But you can start. If you're a realtor, you can use a home office. If you do any kind of sales, you can write off parts of your home or your apartment. That is the start of a business.
I was in New Hampshire, and this is the reason I asked you that question, and it was about 5 homes, and 3 of them, the front was turned into different businesses.
On Total Avenue, you'll see parts of it. That's about zoning. We, as a city, that was the strength of what we were. The locomotive, the Spirit, the engine through Spirit of St. Louis, silk, textile. It started in somebody's basement, let's say. It was in somebody's space.
So you're willing to help people if they, look, I don't want to spend $5,000 a month or $3,000 a month. There's a business on Ellison Street. It was a mailbox place, and it just closed down.
Right.
And because the rent was very high.
Right. Well, if you don't plan a business plan and you don't understand,
I think it was the wrong spot for the right spot for the wrong business.
Location.
Right.
But having good advice and good counseling, and I think that's the trick too. Part of the problem. You can have a great idea about a business, but it's your idea. It now has to be thrown against the wall, and experts, for lack of a better term, look at it and help you figure out the sustainability of it. Because just because it's a good idea, all your kids like your cookies, don't mean all the other kids out there with 10 cents going to buy it. So now if you just spend $500 on a new oven, new cookie sheets, you got this new special flour, you spend 10 pounds of brown sugar, I know how to make cookies. You do all that, and you put a little salt in it, you wrap it up in some cellophane, and you try to sell them for 50 cents. And you find out that nobody buys them. Well, you're out $1,000, plus the stove, plus all this other stuff. But you also now have potential of a lawsuit because you cooked something you're not insured for. You don't have a health certificate license to do it. Your house isn't.
So your part of your small business would provide information about all these.
We're going to help guide you to get rid of the things, the common mistakes, and so that if this is your true calling, then you understand how to move ahead. You will also then have an opportunity, based on our conversation, that you could move into the incubator. And it's not there yet, but that's our goal. And when you're in an incubator, your business can go from just you cooking a couple cookies to you doing 10,000 cookies or 5,000 cookies.
So I'll go back to my point. I think I've been into this mailbox place.
Right.
We were there for the opening.
Right, mailbox, etc.
It's very nice. He's got such a variety. It was very well put together. But what I felt is the rent where he was living was just too much for him to pay. And he was, at some point, he was just barely paying the rent. So what I'm saying is, if some of the city's zoning law were to be laxed...
No, the law, I hear what you're saying, but one has got to do the other. Zoning law does not talk about rent rates.
No, it talks about people using their homes as
spaces. It talks about spaces, not necessarily homes.
Okay.
It talks about a space and whether or not it's an allowed use.
Okay.
In this case of this mailbox place in the same building of Studio 77, there are a couple things that come to mind. Location.
Well, his was location and the size of his rent.
I'm going to say location. He had no place to park. All of his patrons would have had paid money in the meters, or they have to park on the street, or try to park in the alley. He lost business right off the top. Then, it wasn't a highly pedestrian traffic location. So, unless people knew he was there, they had no reason to go down that street to go see him.
There's a lot of vehicle traffic going through, but not walking.
Right. So that's 2 location-based issues. Then the third is, he was in a building by which the rent was not realistic for his needs. There's more. He's in a competitive market. You're a mailbox. You're renting out mailbox space. That's what the post office does.
And selling stationaries.
Right, but that's what the post office does. So you're in direct competition with the post office, who does volume.
So you're saying he should have chose a better line of business?
No, I'm saying he chose what his heart was at, but he may have wanted to, and he might have had a business plan, use a small business development center as we have it designed now to say, how am I doing? I've set these goals. I'm either exceeding my goals or I'm finding some problems. After his second month, he should have known he wasn't going to make it. It doesn't take long if you're in the red to see you're not going to make it.
And your plan is going to make sure that people know.
Well, you're at least aware what to look for.
Yeah. In the city of Paterson.
Yes.
Because that business may have worked in another city.
Yes.
Not in Paterson. I'm going to show
I ain't going to say that. I'm going to say any business working in Paterson. It just, you just can't, and it happens. Work. It's always about work. The guys who do snow removal, who shovel and knock on doors, it doesn't start out as a business. The guy who comes and takes away debris from your yard didn't start out as a business. The guy who comes and does landscaping didn't start out as a business. It started out as the guy said, hey, listen, I'll do that for $25. He did a good job. He didn't put you in any kind of disarray. You liked him. You trusted him. You say, all right, do it every week, all right, or every 2 weeks, and I'll give you $25. And then he got the cash. And then the neighbor said, I like the way he does it. And then he got 2, and now he's making $100. The person across the street saw it. And then he bought a truck. And he painted the truck maybe, but he did the job. And then he says, you know what? I'm doing enough. I need to go into business. But what he also found, be it snow shoveling and salting it down and icing it, all of those are just work that somebody found out they're good at, and they offered a competitive price, and the person said, I'm going to give you a chance. Because if I don't give you a chance, I got to pay this other guy to do it at $250 to do my lawn for the month. Or I got to pay or buy a snowblower, which I'm not going to use, or keep going out and hurt my back on a shovel, or not getting salt, or not getting calcium. And so we are that city that has the potential to grow 3,000 small businesses. We do have it. And potentially, you can make $25,000 to $5,000 extra a month on a small business, selling hair care products, or doing, I forgot what I used to do it too, Stanley, I forgot what his name. But you can do those businesses. The question is, when you take it from desire to business, and the costs that go with it, and knowing you need to go back to school. I'm not saying get a degree, but you need to understand about marketing. How do you market? The mailbox place was competing also with internet.
And staples.
Who's sending mail anymore? It's the internet and email. So, cell phones. A lot of businesses start today, they may have a 5 to 10 year life. But it doesn't mean it can't morph into something else. And you look at the strength of what your business does. And then you did paper, and now you do paper and online. If you stay on paper, you'd be out of business. Just. So, without knowing that you have to do those things, or how to do those things, you're hoping and praying. But we had a down economy. You have people who aren't going down that road. You got a city transitioning. You got new technologies coming out. You're going to be obsolete before you get started.
Okay, I'm going to shoot you some questions here.
Sure.
Less than a minute. In the League of Municipalities, you didn't get a booth there. What happened?
Well, we were told by the state that we could not have the employees of Public Works go down there.
Before we go on, the League of Municipalities is where all the cities in New Jersey get together in Atlantic City to try to promote their products, their city, sell or buy. Okay?
Well, not necessarily promote their products. They go down, they meet vendors who sell and offer new technologies and new sweepers, new this, that, and the other. So you go down there to look for products that you may not have considered, and then you set up a meeting. They'll come up and see you in your city. They'll talk to your various directors, and they'll find out if, in fact, their product is a fit for you.
You went down there.
Yes.
Every year you have a booth. This year you did not have a booth.
Right. The booth is designed to showcase Paterson, and it talks about the great things. So part of the display, which is downstairs in the main foyer
Of City Hall.
Of City
you
Hall.
have it here in City Hall.
Right, because we realize that we go down there, we traipse down there with all this material to try to showcase the city of Paterson, handing out pamphlets and things like that, little kiosks and tchotchkes. But Paterson, the city, never saw it. It didn't make sense. So they didn't quite know what we were doing. And they've been doing it for decades. So we said, no, we're going to do it. We're going to set it up here first so the Patersonians can see it and get a part of the experience, and then take it down to Atlantic City. Well, of course, when we asked the state says you can't we're not going to allow you to send DPW people down there and staying down there in hotels and running up overtime by staying overnight, plus the cost for hotels, setting it up and coming back. We're not going to do it.
That's DCA.
Yeah, Division of Community Affairs for the state of New Jersey. So when I got down there, I saw that there were only 2 cities that had booths. Plainfield was one, and I didn't see the other city. The rest of them were vendors, and I have some pictures of it. I take pictures. When I went to the summit in Washington, there were 648 countries, 47 states, and 11 cities invited. Paterson was one of them. I noticed that they had a floor like the one in Atlantic City. Each of the states was marketing their state to these foreign nations. Come, bring your business here. So it doesn't make sense to me, and it still doesn't, that here's an opportunity. I understand the cost. Heck, I would put the darn thing together. But we were told flat out no. So how do we encourage business here? And yet I got to ask you for help because we have poor people. And you're telling me no, raise taxes. The conversation is wrong.
DCA is telling you to raise taxes?
Well, when they told me I had to do 29% tax increases and I had to do layoffs.
We're going to get to that in a second. Real quick, there's bars outside City Hall, the new gates that's going up around the park.
They're not bars, they're fenced.
They're fenced, okay.
Right. City Hall and a lot of Paterson was not intended to. It was wide open, the grass was patchy, people would sleep under there. It just was not a very inviting City Hall. It didn't look like work gets done here.
Yeah, there's a lot of people drinking and
all kinds of stuff.
Outside City Hall here.
So it's attractive. It makes it look like a formal place. We make sure the lights are working. So when you're downtown, you're safer. Now, we still got a lot of lights out, and that's with public service, electric, and gas. But we're making sure that when you come here, it's for business. It's a business environment.
So the gates are to preserve the beautification of that little park outside Paterson City Hall.
Still have benches. We're going to replace those benches with some benches we have. We're going to put some greenery out there and some shrubs out there that make it more inviting. We just fixed the stairs in the front. We put a rail in so nobody falls. The city had a whole bunch of lawsuits based on people falling because of ice. So we're taking care of that.
The bars are, you don't want to say bars, you want to say fence. The fence is this high, so what's stopping the folks from sitting on that all day and moving it and breaking it? Are you going to put spikes on it to prevent that?
No, we can't do that.
Okay.
Our security folks will encourage them not to do that. But we had a lady who was letting her clothes dry on already. It's what we do.
Okay, Christmas parade. You had no Christmas parade. 150 people about showed up last night. Was it last night?
There's about 250 people.
250 people at the tree lighting.
Lighting ceremony.
Saturday
night.
Saturday night. It used to be thousands of people lined. What's wrong with getting a Christmas parade when everybody else has a parade?
Money.
Okay.
The same DCA won't let us use money to buy candies for Halloween. They won't let us do other events. And they said, that's not what we're giving you aid for. Okay, understand it. So, the festival. We have to get permission from them to do the festival.
What festival?
The Falls Fest.
Grace Fall Festival.
Right.
Jazz
so
Festival.
they're saying as long as you're receiving this aid, you can't use these things for luxury things. I understand that.
Was the festival a luxury thing?
They ultimately let us do it and gave us the okay to use it, but we had the storm.
Okay.
So the parade.
But before we go on, that jazz festival, I heard you're not going to be doing it again?
I never did it. It's done by the MUA. I encouraged them to do something. They did it. I don't think they're going to stop doing it.
Okay, so
I think
it will continue.
We're going to encourage it because it's brought a lot of interest to the city of Paterson and to the Falls. But you have people who get silly about things. And there's nothing you can do about it. Everybody's entitled to do what they say and be. We're not going to worry about that. But if the MUA feels it's not worth the hassle, when they put out all the costs, they take nothing from the city. They've only given to the city. They send the kids to Texas to the youth games. They pay for different things. They don't have to, but they're doing it.
There's a dispute between one of your alleged opponents and the MUA, and he made a comment or some Oprah, and that caused the Eric Lowe, head of the DPA, the MUA, to say he's no longer going to be doing it. Is that true?
Well, I don't know. That they are a board, and they'll make that decision.
Okay.
I did hear about it. I think it was silly for the person to do that. It's the same person that asked why we went to India, which I just explained. We went to go see if we can bring business. And
investment money.
Mm-hmm. And that means people work. So if everything we do, which I find interesting, there's nothing that we have done that hasn't advanced the city. But everything we've done has caused people to ask questions. I wonder, if these questions had been asked 30 years ago, as you said, will we have these problems? No. We have other problems.
And you were recognized by organization for...
U.S. Conference of Mayors.
For?
Advocacy for small business. There are 3 new Family Dollars. There are 2 Caesar's Pizzas. We're expecting the grand opening of an IHOP. We have several new businesses in South Paterson. There's a couple.
You have an IHOP coming?
Yes.
When?
we're waiting for their final thing. The paperwork is almost done.
And there'll be a groundbreaking.
There's a new fish store on Park Avenue. There's maybe about 100 plus new businesses that have come about. They came because of stability.
In the last 4 years?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But your efforts were also for promoting Paterson as a business.
The FDI award.
Yeah.
Right.
So the DCA approved money for the Dominican parade, but why did it not produce money for the Christmas parade? Because they demanded and went to court for it, or because nobody demanded and went to court for the Christmas parade?
Well, the Christmas parade is put on by our cultural affairs and the chamber. They lead it. The city doesn't. Remember, and I think part of what's been going on for Paterson for so long is people have a misunderstanding what government is. And it's nobody's fault, it just is. There are a lot of folks who believe that Paterson, the city, is responsible for picking up all the trash. Well, if you don't throw it down, we can use those dollars someplace else. There's an expectation that I call the police and they should be there in 5 minutes. But if you're calling the police because somebody's yelling outside, which is a good reason, versus somebody being hurt, which one would you rather, if it was you, them respond to? So there's a lot of folks who have gotten accustomed to, and even DCA didn't want us to have our recreation program paid for. They tried to take away $300,000 for it. We got kids with disabilities. We have all kinds of conditions that live in this city. And they were saying it's too much money. Well, we have 52 different school sites or more. During the summer, there are recreation sites. So we save money rather than open up all our parks and causing a burden on our budget. Young people get employed, and the kids are being maintained, parents can work. But when you start talking about cutting down this and shutting this down, shutting that down, you're talking about poor parents and poor families. Who's going to watch those kids? They got to take off from the job. So it's like there's not a lot of attention being paid to the families. It's about dollars and cents. And fortunately, unfortunately, they voted back in this governor, and whether he did it or not, his administration did it. And so expect more of the same. Now, I'm happy to say that the city has responded to, I just had a conversation with Mr. Joe Malaconico of the Herald News asking me similarly to some of your question about the budget. And I said to him, the budget is a fluid process. It starts when it starts and it ends when it ends. It has to go in front of the council. The DCA has to review it.
There's extensions on the budget?
There's extensions. The council can say it's not going to do something. They can want something taken out. It's a process, and it's not over till it's over. I understand DCA wants us to get done by December. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. The council can take exception to something. DCA can take exception to something. We can have an emergency. We can have a major storm right now, and it can blow $1 million out of our budget that we don't have to do snow removal or some emergency.
Speaking of which, you're $5 million short in this year's budget.
It's not that we're short. We foresee, in order to be able to offer the services that we need to offer at this juncture, based on last year's operation and the things that we see, that we need $27 million. Period.
You made a request for $27 million.
Yes, we've made that same request since we've been in office. First time was $30-something million, and they surprised us, gave us 27 or 28. The last time they gave us 22.4, we asked for 27. So we have to ask it. This is what we think we need. They're looking at our budget. There are fewer cities in the pool. We might get it. We may not.
If you wanted 27, why didn't you ask for 35? And maybe it'd come down to
Remember,
27.
they're watching the budget.
Right.
They're here almost monthly, if not bi-weekly.
Mm-hmm.
So they know what our expenditures are. They know what our staffing hires are. So it's not like they don't know what we are.
Okay.
They
so
know
they go through the budget
They
themselves.
know the budget as good or better than we do.
Because formal negotiation is if you want 25, you ask for 35.
That's called fluff.
Yeah.
And before they would give us
They look through
the
the budget.
27, they'd want us to do another layoff or something like that.
Would you be doing layoffs? You see that in the future?
You can never take layoffs off the table. If 1,000 people decided to up and move from Paterson tomorrow, or 300 families, then 300 households might contribute $8 million in taxes.
When they leave, they take that tax with them.
Right, and then that means that we have a gap. That means we can't play police and fire. We can't do parks. We can't do roads. That's the issue. Now, 300 might be, 8 million for 300 might be a bit extreme, but it's significant.
Why did you say 5 million was the mark that you will be kind of short? If you want 27,
We want 27.
Okay.
But based on last year's allocation of 22.4, and based on what we know as our debt service, the things that we owe, we would need $27 million from our estimation, so we don't have to see significant tax increases.
If you don't get to 27 million, what would happen?
We'll take a look at layoffs. We'll take a look at staff reductions. We'll take a look at reducing spending. The same thing we've been doing since I've been in this seat.
Would we lose police officers?
Don't know. All that becomes on the table.
What's the first thing on the table to cut when there's $5 million short?
There's no such thing. The first thing you do is go through your budget, see what you don't need. So let's say you got positions that's not filled, and let's say, and that's typical. We got about 2,000 people for the city, at least working, and we might have another, I'm making this up, 300 positions we want to fill. Now they're real important positions. And you say, well, if they're important, how come they're not filled? Well, first of all, DCA is set to say you can do it. Plus, you have to have the means to pay for it. So let's say when the budget started, the salary for each of the positions averaged $50,000 or $10,000. We don't even have too many positions at $50,000. Let's say $10,000. 6 months into the job, the budget. Well, the position's still not $10,000. Now it's only half of that you would pay. So you take that other 5 out times the 300 or 50 positions, and you put that in your budget. So if you're not going to hire those persons for the full year, you're going to hire for a portion of the year, you can take that money out. It is a hodgepodge. And some days you win, some days you just don't.
Do you think you'll get to 27 million?
I never know. We put forth the best case we have, as we have done.
The then Council President did endorse Christie, so we'll see how well that worked out.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah. St. Joe's, remember that story we wrote about St. Joe's Hospital?
Mm-hmm.
What's the story with that? Have you given them the letter? Are you going to give them the letter?
They've actually agreed to meet on December 18th.
Okay.
Now, my problem is not that St. Joe's wants to do a hotel, or that St. Joe's is St. Joe's. Has never been my problem. I have some concerns about one of the council members who works for them and his ethical,
Kenneth Morris.
Well, his position and some of the things he's done. But that's a separate conversation. I've already sent my concerns down to the local finance board in DCA, and I'm waiting to hear. I thought they should have done something by now, but that's another story. As it relates to St. Joe's Hospital, my big question is simply this. It's okay for you to want to do a hotel. Do it. Our data says 3 hotels would suffice, and that's a lot of jobs in Paterson. But you also have a hospital zone that you have special. Nobody else has it. I don't have it. No other property owner has it. On this hospital zone, you don't have to pay certain taxes. Currently, you don't pay them. You pay some, but not all of them. You also broker who comes in and lives in your zone. You bring businesses as long as they're medical. Now, if they're medical based, they're not paying taxes or the fair portion. So now, you're going to bring a hotel, which I saw, they never did a full presentation to me, which is the other part. They just told me, we want this support. It's not going to happen like that. I need to know the financials. I need to understand. The council member says at the meeting, it's going to be 170 jobs. Really? If they're technical jobs, they're professional medical-based jobs, what 170 people in Paterson going to get them? So what are we talking about? So they can say stuff like that to the public, but it doesn't mean it's true. My job is to make sure that if you have non-tax paying properties, right?
Which is where they want to build a hotel on.
Well, on top of their property, and you're going to have medical-based providers there. It's for like a medical school and some other stuff, and the hotel.
Conference room.
Conference and stuff like that. So what part of that is exempted from taxes, if any, and there might be none. But how does that enhance the city? Because you created this footprint where everything there comes back to you. How does it benefit us? And I need you to show me. They also want pilots. They want more tax incentives. So this conversation never went out to the public. The one that was presented to the public was the one that was illegal. The one about $54 million bond guarantee and $2 million in soft cash that allegedly was promised by the previous administration. There's no way a city...
They were promised 57...
That's what I was... $54 million. That's what I was told by the same council.
The city was promising them $54 million.
That's what they said they were promised.
Okay.
To guarantee a bond so they can build a hotel. And I said, it's not going to happen. And then they went down to the state, DCA, and DCA told them, no, it ain't. And then and I'd encouraged them to go down to the state and find some funds. They ultimately did it, but they didn't want to come back and talk. They just wanted to say, in my estimation,
They did it from another company.
well, they did it through the state, urban
State-
tax credit.
Urban tax credit.
Right.
Okay.
So, and that's okay. That's what I encouraged you to do the first time. But that doesn't mean I have to accept the terms. I need to make sure that I'm not paying more taxes, taxpayers aren't paying more taxes, and that it's going to be a positive relationship.
And you get back some kind of tax revenue from them to benefit the people of Paterson.
Right, it's got to work across the board.
Right.
So December 18th is the date that we're going to sit down, and one of the things that bother me, they have the nerve, and I say nerve, to say, send me your questions. I'm not sending you questions. You're the one who wants and has called everybody to tell me that I need to send you a letter of support.
Well, and you said this, but I'm going to say it again. Why do you need a letter of support if the city has nothing to do with your hotel?
Well, that's what I asked the state about, and I said, listen, and I had them send me a copy of the legislation, and I said, listen, I got burnt by this once before when I was on the council and we did the Hope 6, when Christopher Columbus apartments were torn down. The city council approved the resolution and agreeing to this, and there were subsequent resolutions, or maybe even ordinances, that were passed. We objected. I was a councilman in the first ward, and I objected to some of the later things. And they told me, when you passed this one, you said okay to all things. So I'm like, well, wait a minute now. So if somebody's building something, if they want to talk to the city about resources like a pilot, that's my conversation. But if they're getting dollars from you to state, what does that got to do with me?
Right.
State says, well, we like to go to the electeds to get their concurrence. I understand that. But what does that got to do with me? Am I now obligated, is the city now obligated to all things after? And she says, no. Well, that's not what my experience tells me.
Okay.
So, until such time as I was ultimately clear that this means no obligation, which is going to be reflected in all statements, build a hotel. I think it'd be great for the city. I mean, Walmart wants to come over there. A lot of businesses are talking to us about coming to the city.
To Paterson.
Sure, they're talking. And that's what you do. You encourage it. And they want to know that there's a plan. They want to know that there's vision. Henschler Stadium, the National Park, Pennington Park, the businesses, going to the Select USA Conference. All of that stuff tells them, the FDI Award, U.S. Chamber of Commerce Award, Congress of Cities. All of that tells them that we're doing stuff, that we're not who you think we were, that the press can say what's going to say. We can't control that. I mean, listen, I don't own the paper. They can write whatever they want. They can ask me a question, go ask somebody else something, and write the nastiest heading. That's what they do.
It's called a hijack news reporting.
It's called a hijack. But when it's all said and done, you've got to show me, the same way the council does, every little nuance to the point where it becomes benign. You've got to show me. And if it makes sense, it makes sense. I don't see what the problem is. We could have done this back in August. No, we couldn't, because they didn't send us everything.
Okay.
We could have done this in September. They didn't send us everything.
Okay.
They didn't send us everything in November. So I'm done. I'm just saying.
You seem a little fired up about that issue.
Well, I'm just saying we could have been done this, but they decided they didn't have to talk to the city. And I believe because people told them they didn't have to, but the state told them, yes, you do. So.
To the city council. Well, I'm sorry.
No, a member from the city council actually went down to the state and was told, no, you got to go to the mayor.
Okay. And so you're running there's a rematch between you and Joey Torres.
No, there isn't. No, there isn't. He's a citizen who has a desire to serve as is everybody else, and he wants to run. And the same here. It's not a rematch. That's what they do to sell papers. But they also put crime dramas on to make them look sexy, but we're having death and murder. So to me, it doesn't make sense, and I don't buy it. He wants to run, let him run.
You don't see that as a rematch because you have
No.
you two.
I didn't run against Joey. I ran for the seat.
You ran for the seat.
Yeah, ain't no rematch.
You didn't see it as him having up to 7,000 votes. You having almost the same, and now he's coming back to see if he can take the seat from you again.
No,
What do you think about him running?
I don't. I mean, if I had to think about stuff, I had to think about the $78 million budget deficit. I had to think about the 200 police officers he hired that he didn't get permission from the state, but everything I do, I got to get permission from the state. I had to think about all the properties that he gave people special benefit for to avoid tax increases. And then when it's all said and done, the city got upended. I had to think about the fact that the only thing that he has on his track record is Center City Mall. Oh, that's right. It's owned by somebody else. We did 14 projects. He did one. If the public wants him back, I ain't gonna say that. I get one vote when I walk in the polling place. That's all I got. I'm confident in who I am about what I've done. I can't argue or worry about him or anybody else for that matter.
Donna Ivy running against you? She's one of your employees?
Well, she's running out here.
She's opening up a headquarters.
Very good for her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, not just word in the street is it's kind of a betrayal that you go and
Listen.
word in the street.
Listen, if you're a resident of the city and you believe you can do something different, I'm kind of okay with the fact that you think you can do something different. I think that's fine. But you still got to show the public what you've done. You've got to demonstrate where you're going to take us. And heck, if you're right, maybe I'll vote for you. But thus far, we have the track record. We did the national park after 30 years of being dormant. We did the firehouse after 8 years of all kinds of stuff. We did Pennington Park. We did the streets and roads being done. Our accomplishments. We fixed the TV studio that was dormant and not operating. We've advanced the conversation about the Armory and looking to get it cleaned up so we can take a look at it as an international trade center. We did Maryland Kramer Park. We did Hinchcliffe Stadium. And a host of other things. The Riverwalk about to get started. We're the ones who are bringing in big box stores and I was a part of Home Depot coming here, not Lowe's, maybe Lowe's too. So I had a part of all of that. But most importantly, this administration is the one that's went out to the world, to foreign nations and said, take a look at us. And because of that FDI award, because of that U.S. Conference of Mayors, because of that the dollar stores, because of that.
And this is part 1 of our conversation with Mayor Jeffery Jones. You can click on to part 2 on this very same website, Sirrano.com, and hear our continuing conversation with the mayor. And that's all the time that we have for today. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.